Welcome to Survivor Global on Reality Pop. We've got a very special guest with us here today, Leanne from Survivor South Africa, Island of Secrets. And we're going to be recapping episodes 1 and 2. So later on in the podcast, we'll also have Paul drop in, fingers crossed. I haven't spoken to him directly, but we have had Adam Jumba speak to both of them. Leanne, how are you doing since Survivor? What have you been up to?
Well, I had a 180-degree transformation vibe going on. Besides the 14 kilograms that I picked up, I actually moved provinces, moved my entire family to a different place, went back to my old sales roots, still coaching on the side. But yeah, the job that I was doing before Survivor, I kind of moved on from that. I didn't have a choice before I left because they gave me an ultimatum, which I'll never regret. But I'm in a good place now, traveling the country once a month. And just using my platform indirectly. You'll be surprised how many of my clients actually did watch Survivor and how many brownie points I score when I need to close a deal. But yeah, that's me. Me and my family just happy in Durban, same climate as Samoa, very hot, very humid, but we're in a good place.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm really sort of interested to know, were you a fan of Survivor before going onto the show, or was this something that sort of you were recruited, someone came to you to say, hey, we'd love to have you on the show? What was that process like for you getting onto the show?
Well, I was a Survivor fan. I'll never even forget when Tina and them won 20 years ago, and when it was on SABC3.
Yeah.
I used to watch that, and then life happened. And as I grew older, my husband's also in the entertainment industry, but he's a TV director. And as I did pageants and stuff, and started seeing what good platforms can do, it just I don't know. I watched Survivor Philippines, and when that night ended, they gave the new cast call, and they said, listen, if you want to enter, why don't you do it? And then my dad, being the big freaking Survivor fan that he is, he jokingly said, why don't you enter? And I'm like, well, 1 million people enter. What are the chances of me actually getting in? And I just decided, if you're not going to try, you're not going to know. So I've got all these freaking crazy clips. My audition video is actually on YouTube, where I just compiled all the stuff that I've done in my life. I've been through so much in my life that some people don't know, things of real surviving, life stories, and just having a lot of tenacity. And I think somehow that caught onto them. And when I'm sure, when Nicole and Steffi and those people entered, the producers saw something in their heads. I think their minds went spinning, and I'm sure they watched Brawn, Beauty and Brains way too many times. And somehow they formulated and they knew what they wanted. And up until today, they'll never admit it, but I've got a very big suspicion that's what all of them kind of put in there, and they just saw this perfect storyline. So no, we weren't recruited at all.
Yeah.
I just think we were all auditioning at the right time, at the right place, just coming out of Survivor, Brawn, Beauty and Brains. And I just think our producers are phenomenal. I just think they saw a gap and they took it.
I was going to say, to me, it's too much of a coincidence that you ended up on a tribe with both Steffi and Nicole. And there's a lot of talk about the relationship between yourself and Nicole, obviously, throughout this first episode, and the fact that you guys were both in the same year for going for Miss South Africa. One of the lines that was really funny was Nathan saying he didn't know that something like that existed. To me, that was quite funny, because how do you not know that Miss South Africa exists? I just don't believe it, but maybe he was that naive to it. But definitely having you, Nicole and Steffi, and I'm assuming you would have known of Steffi in that same sort of world. It's probably quite a small and sort of niche type of world that you're involved in. You would have known who she was as well. But what was interesting is that, in your tribe, you were crucified for not playing the game very fast and building relationships. But on the other side, we had tribes that was seen as a bad thing when people were trying to make these relationships very early on. So it is really subjective to the people that you're actually in a tribe with, on if it's a good thing to play it a little bit calm or to immediately approach, but probably the fact that you already had these existing bonds with people that obviously they didn't know if they could like this is literally what they were saying on the show. They didn't know if they could trust you long term or not, and if you would turn against Nicole or Steffi, I guess down the line. So I think there's a few questions in there. Firstly, did you know Steffi as well as Nicole before going on to the show, and then do you feel like those relationships that you had previously with them was a disadvantage in this case for your own game?
I knew of Steffi purely because she's married to one of the South African actors, and she did that Discovery, not Discovery, it was a Fortuner Toyota thing, and she's absolutely beautiful. So when I saw her, a glimpse of her in the aeroplane flying over, and something just told me, this chick is something about her. I think something's up. And then I remembered the conversation that I had with my husband the night before. We were just joking, and I was saying, "Oh, imagine Nicole comes onto the show," because I've literally, in the 2 years after Mrs. South Africa, I literally had this thing against her, but purely because of she rejected me in the pageant itself years back. I tried to be her friend so much, but it's like somehow she didn't want to be my friend. And I just left it. But I admired her for the stuff that she did. I honestly did. Like all the personal things that she went through in her life as well. So, but deep down, we're all women and we all feel intimidated at some point. And the funny thing was, Nicole and I are exactly the same length. We've got exactly the same color eyes. We've got exactly the same color hair. We are born a week apart. We wear the same shoe size. Okay, so in my mind, it was always like, yussy, like what's wrong with me as Leanne? So obviously it was like Nicole. So when I saw her on the island, my heart just stopped and I lost. And the Leanne that you see in the first 4 days was the Leanne who was shocked to the core. I could not believe that the one person in my entire life that I am afraid of most and intimidated by most is in the same tribe as me. And Leanne, being the Leanne that she is, I just promised my husband I'll never turn into a person that I'm not. And when Sipe was sitting on the beach there, I just couldn't imagine myself running off with the other 5 and being with them and leaving Sipe alone. And she was already the one in my eye that stood out differently. She was the eldest. She was the mommy figure. She wasn't a pageant queen. And I just felt I couldn't leave her. And she said to me, they're going to form something, you better go. And I was like, I'm not intimidated. But I knew something was up, but I just couldn't leave. So Steffi reached out to me. We kind of bonded. You'll see at the tribal council, Steffi really took a long time to actually sign that piece of paper because she didn't know what she was doing, or whether she was making the right choice. And Paul and I stuck together. And Nathan was also very much, he also found out that far along the lines, him and Steffi are actually family. And Nicole was already turning everybody against me because she knew I was intimidated and she knew it would end up in her favor. And she knew she probably thought I was out on revenge or something. But I still didn't know where to begin because she had already beaten, she already got them, like first off, immediately. So when I was sitting at tribal council, I was just like, holy crap, this is not going to go down in my favor. Like, even though you guys don't see all the edited stuff, because it's at the end of the day, it's still a TV show, and we are signed to secrecy and made to believe what happens on camera is what happened. You can't try to turn the story into your own story because the company can sue you for actually doing that. So I can never disclose what happened, what was said, what wasn't said. And it's something that I'm going to die with one day. But I can promise you that I was confident, but I still had a lot of reason to doubt that night that things weren't going to go my way. And I knew the only person I could trust was Paul, actually. I kind of believed Steffi as well. And up until today, Steffi and I are very, very close. And she's always said to me, I'm so sorry. Like, at the end of the day, I know what you went through, because it happened to me. And I felt so betrayed. But at the end of the day, we've got to forgive her. Otherwise, we as women, strong women, are never going to trust anyone ever again. And we have to take it from her it comes. So Nicole isn't somebody who gives up at all in life, whatever she does. And I don't think she will ever change. She wants to win. Second best is just not good enough for her. And that's what today I'm not friends with Nicole, and I'll never be friends with her. And it took me a while to even say it out loud, because you don't want to make yourself seem like a biatch, you know, like, or that you have wounds that you are trying to fix, but not. Because at the moment, I really don't care if I never get closure with her. I don't. I'm just a happier person going on with my life as it is, far away from everyone else on my own little planet. I know what I know, and that's all that matters. Sure, that was a lot of talking. I'm so sorry. Sounds like a therapy session here.
On the island there, Leanne, on day one, you sort of drifted towards CPay and played that more nurturing role. I suppose when Nicole and the others went off, and he knew they had sort of formed this bond and that it was going to be hard for you to penetrate in there, after seeing Nathan injured in the challenge, how hard did you kind of push to get him out of the game? Or did you realize that it was really you against Nicole and you didn't have too far to move there?
I didn't feel sorry for Nathan at all. I promise you. And I really felt weird that I didn't feel. Everybody was going all over him and, oh, Nathan, your poor little foot. You know, it's like, what the F, guys? He knew that he had to wear safety shoes. And now he's standing here feeling sorry for himself. And the way he begged them to vote him off, and they keep on saying, no, you will not go home. You will stay here. You will give yourself another chance. And I'm like, okay, so Sipe is a lot slower than the rest of us. I tried to even help her over those freaking planks. She would not budge. Now Nathan is injured as well, and we want to go up against the rest of the tribe the next day. What are you guys actually freaking thinking? So deep down in my mind, I was like, what the hell is everybody, what are they on about? So with him, I didn't have sympathy, and I wanted him to go. And I think they knew that I didn't give a crap because I didn't show it. Because I usually wear my heart on my sleeve, and I was the only one not freaking trying to lick his butt to vote in my favor. And I tried reaching out to him numerous times. Like I said, the cameras aren't always there, so it'll seem like I didn't give a crap. But I sat there and I tried to have a conversation with him. But stuff about his life, like where he came from, I tried to bond with him, not to freaking sympathize with his foot. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. So I was kind of wondering, Paul got chosen early on here as the leader for your tribe. How did that conversation go, and how was that decided? Because we see a little bit there of, Rob saying he didn't want to take the lead, and he took a massive step back from that, obviously knowing that it could put a target on his back. Do you remember how that sort of the conversation went in making Paul the leader, and how did you feel about Paul having to take that responsibility for your tribe?
I didn't hear the very first sentence that you said. You were breaking up a bit, but
okay.
But I would have supported Paul, but I think he also wanted to play it safe. I kind of feel like he's like a daddy figure, and to him it was like he's got these physically big guys towering out above him. And when we were at the thing and they chose the leaders, he actually said like, oh, flip, the people always want the leader out first. So I think he was playing it safe not to be that bossy leader, because in so many other Survivors International shows, the leaders always get their heads chopped. So I think he played it safe, and he didn't try to be too bossy, and he didn't really want to be the big leader because he was so scared, because he really wanted to stay in for the long haul. He was the biggest Survivor fan ever. I mean, I'm sure you've seen his Instagram posts and Facebook posts. There's like every second day, there's still something going on around Survivor with him. So it's like Tony from Philippines. She's also like the biggest fan, and she keeps on doing these online Facebook challenges and stuff because they really are diehard fans. So I think he was trying, from experience out of old stuff, he just realized like, if I am going to try to take the lead too hard, they're gonna come for me. But luckily I saw through that, and I saw a daddy figure in him, and we had a lot of nice moments that were also never shown, but I knew I could trust him. I just felt safe with him.
Yeah, because I was going to ask a follow-up question on that. Now, Paul goes to the Island of Secrets and he ends up deciding to go for the hidden immunity idol and not take the flint. And his strategy is to come back and let everybody know in the tribe that this is what he did for the tribe. How did you feel about that move and him being so honest about the fact that he got the clue? Because to me, that was quite an interesting strategy as someone that's also watched a lot of Survivor. In most cases, you'd think that that person would keep it away from the rest of the tribe. And how did you feel about the fact that he came in back to the tribe and he was so open about that information in front of everybody?
Do you know what? I think that's why we get along together so well, because we wear our hearts on our sleeves, and it would have taken us a while to get into that devious side of things. We think that when we go into Survivor, we think, oh, we'll be able to be like Werner in season 6, the little pastor boy, until he finally betrayed Tony and she freaking called him out. She called him a snake. Like, I visited Tony like 3 weeks ago. We were camping together, the two of us. We went on a ladies thing, and she also said to me she'll never forget how she just went there and called him a snake. But they literally prayed together every morning, and he got her trust. But I think here at the end, when they're hungry and they coming closer and closer, that's when your innate nature comes out. So I think Paul and I, we just didn't transition into what a real survivor is supposed to do on the show like this. And I thought he thought if he'd be honest, he would get everybody's attention and they would see what a nice guy he is. Same with me. I want everybody to see what a nice person I am. But you can't go onto Survivor being nice. You have to, at some point, know that you're on the show and it's do or die. If you're going to be stupid and you're going to be honest, it's on you. But you have to take a risk. It's a 50-50 toss. And I don't think he even knew that he was going to make a mistake.
Yeah, and how quickly did you sort of see the amigos form on the tribe there? Like, we see you and Sipe sitting sort of to the side there, saying those are the strong four sort of forming there, and they're going to go against us. How quickly did you see those four sort of create this bond? Was it as quick as it showed on the TV show with them immediately just gravitating towards each other, or did it take a little bit longer for those bonds to form there in the beginning?
No, it literally happened as we got there. We literally got onto the island and they ran off. We took a swim and they went off into another direction. Like, there was like this far end where we had like boundaries where we can't go. And they went right up to the boundary and they were there. And when they came back, they hid it very well. They hid it very, very, very well. I didn't sense anything. But yeah, Sipe said she's convinced something did happen. So at the end of the day, when you look at the footage, you'll see that it is what they were doing. So, and yeah, I never in my life have I seen something form that quickly, ever, in any Survivor, but it did. So while Paul was gone, he was the only other person besides me and Sipe, and that wasn't part of what happened. So yeah, like you could see, Nicole went to him directly when he came back, and she told him, like, we're starting to do this, we're starting to do that. But I think also he was very realistic like me, because we kind of convinced each other that we can't do with Sipe and Paul. Sipe and Nathan. Either one of them has got to go. And so we were realistic about it. And then true as Bob, what happened when I left and he stayed is what we predicted. So lost again.
That was the fascinating thing about this first vote, though, when Nathan literally couldn't walk at all. He was being carried on Rob's back. And yet the tribe persisted to eliminate the biggest social threat for the long term of the game, supposedly, according to Nicole. Yet Sipe and Nathan were clearly the weakest. I mean, Nathan not being able to walk, to me, that speaks to how strong that bond was they built on day one.
But Riley, women are very strange. Okay, take it from somebody who did her honors in psychology, who is a life coach, who reads people like you cannot believe. It was a personal thing. In the beginning, to Nicole, it was a personal thing. She wanted me out. She wanted me out no matter what. And she got Rob on her side. She got Nathan on her side. She literally, I wish you could have seen how she actually mother henned him while he was injured. It was like he had lost a kidney or both his balls, I'm telling you, the way she was going on. And she's a pharmacist, remember? So she had all the advice in the world, you know? So, yeah, it was quite funny. It was funny. But I know, looking back now, I've had a lot of time to think about this. It was personal. And, yeah, I've got other information as well that I've learned in the past from being friends now with all the other cast members of things that were said. And, yeah, no, it was a personal thing. It wasn't coincidence.
So I want to roll back a little bit from that part of what happened within this episode, and specifically roll back to the early parts when you guys had to go into that first challenge. So we just had Paul selected as the leader for the tribe, and then Nico comes and he throws a fast one at you guys, and he says, "Well, guess what? The leaders are going to go to the Island of Secrets, and the people that you thought are the weakest in the tribe, in this case it was Sipe. That Sipe will now become the person who's going to become the leader in the challenge, and be the person who's going to call out for people to do where to go specifically and to go get the different items for the camp." How much confusion were there in those early days, because you've now got a team that has to work together that have literally just met each other in the game? How much confusion was there in that first challenge? And I do see that we do have Paul starting to get ready there in the background as well, so I'm going to add Paul to the stream as well while you answer this, and then we'll say hello to him as well. Hi Paul, nice to meet you.
Oh, look at him, all dressed up and ready for the occasion.
I love it. I feel underdressed.
Hello, Paulie.
I don't have my...
Me too. I feel overdressed. There wasn't much confusion. Okay, you just keep quiet, Paul, and you just wave at us. I'm kidding. There wasn't much confusion. I think it was just everybody trying to be modest, but we were such strong personalities in that freaking group. Nobody actually cared. I think everybody still tried to be the leader. I mean, if you look at it, we were shouting at each other at one point, and it's like, oh, you said that we had it now, and now it's falling apart again. No, I've got this idea. Okay, you get on top of the thing. Okay, now you get off. No, you go there. No, you go there. You said you had it. Why did we do it this way? Now I have to start all over again. So there wasn't, and I think that was our biggest weakness, because nobody was the leader. Everybody was the leader. Everybody refused to step down. I was the only one basically trying to follow a leader. And at the end of the day, I looked the weakest because I was the only one not trying to also get involved in there, because what the hell? Nobody actually knows what they're doing, but they think they know what they're doing. So in those instances, I just keep quiet and I try to be the mediator, and I just fall in with whatever they say. So yeah, there wasn't confusion. It was just like they just went on again.
Well, your tribe did end up probably doing the best in that episode and ended up getting most of the items coming back. So good job to Sipe. She said that she's used to shouting at her kids and give orders, so it helped her in that specific challenge. The other thing that stood out for me in that challenge, which was pretty impressive, and obviously you guys who were at the challenge, Paul sadly wasn't there, would have not noticed that Jark actually was smart enough to know where the advantage was in the challenge, and he immediately sent Felix and whoever Felix was partnered with to go and get that advantage. And he finds out that that's an advantage that's going to help him later in the game at Merge, not so early in the actual season. But hats off to Jark for being the person who was chosen as the weakest person, I put that in air quotations, of his tribe, and then have the presence of mind to go and get the advantage here in the early stages. Now, Paul, so the format that we're going on with this podcast, and it's really nice to meet you as well. I know you've mainly been speaking to Adam Jumba at this stage. We're basically doing a recap of your season. Myself and Riley, who's over in Sydney, I'm in Auckland, in New Zealand. We've just finished the Australian Survivor season recap of Champions versus Contenders 2, and we're moving on to into your season, Survivor Island of Secrets. And this one's going to take us into the new season for season 8, and we'll be doing a live recap on that one as well. And how we're going to do it is we've got Leanne and yourself on here, and we're just recapping the first episode as a whole and asking questions sort of in regards to what your experience was on the island. But I'm really interested to know, Paul, it's been a while since we've seen you, because I actually saw the original season when it came out. So this is a rewatch for me as well. What have you been up to since you played on Survivor?
It's amazing that 2 years has already passed. What I've been up to this weekend, I quickly watched the episodes again just to make sure of what I actually did, when, what, why, how. You tend to forget all these things.
How can you forget, Paul? You always something.
Move on. Wait for the next invite and play a different game. When we were on the island, okay, I was only there for a short period, but I realized how hungry someone can actually get. And coming back from there, we started an initiative called Loaf Day. And basically on a Wednesday, what happens is we try and get as many people as possible to go and buy some loaves, anything from basically 1 loaf of bread to 10 loaves of bread, and just hand it out to those in need. We've got a Facebook page called #LoafDay. Got about 3,000 members. So if you take 3,000 times at least 1 loaf or 3 loaves or whatever, you're getting quite a lot of bread out there on a Wednesday. And I think that was directly impacted on me from being on Survivor. So that was one of the good things that came out of it. And yeah, as you probably know, I'm in the property game. So I've been very, very busy just with property. The one thing was that when I did come back from getting blindsided, so to say, came back and a week later signed one of the biggest property transactions that I'd ever done. So, I believe things in life are always meant to be. So I had the full experience, which was amazing, and then came back and signed this huge whopper of a deal. So everything worked out to it was basically like getting half of the prize money. So I, in my own eyes, if I'd stayed there, I wouldn't have signed it. So, hey, got half the prize money, and it was a good one.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, Leanne sort of alluded to the fact that you're a big fan, and I can definitely pick that up by having your Survivor hat on and your Survivor buff there as well. How big of a fan were you before seeing the season? Did you apply for the show, and what was that process like, or were you someone that was approached by production to play this game?
No, definitely. We started watching season 6 and watched it right to the end. And obviously right at the end, they said, "Are you the next Survivor?" And I spoke to Jen and I said, let's go and make a video. Let's just go and do one for fun and make it really quirky, just for the fun of it. So the expectations of going on were very minimal. I didn't think we'd get on. I think the video was quite cheeky. So if you go and look it up, you'll see why I say the word cheeky. And it was actually quite funny because I'd got a call. Not a call, that I got the email to say you haven't made the show. So I thought, okay, well, we'd done the video and everything, and I'm not on the show. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call, and they said, "Hi, Paul, it's Zinzi from Survivor. You've made it to Survivor." Now, we've got a comedian here in South Africa. I don't know if you know him, Darren Wackhead. And he plays pranks on everyone. So as I got the call, I listened. I said, "Yeah, you and Darren Wackhead," and I put the phone down, thinking like I've already got the email, so someone's obviously phoned Wackhead and said, "Let's prank Paul." About 5 minutes later, a phone call again and said, "Paul, but it's Zinzi from Survivor. You've made it." And it was what had happened was I'd gone back, because it takes so long, the whole process. I'd gone back into my application and looked back into it, and at the end of looking into it again, it says send. And I think what had happened is I'd had 2 applications in. One was with a video and one was without. So the one without the video, they obviously just said you haven't made it. And then the whole process started from there, which was quite good. And what was the question again?
No, it's basically just asking, if you were approached or if you applied and if you were a big fan beforehand. And you mentioned that you watched season 6. Did you ever watch any of the international versions of the show, or was it mainly the Survivor South Africa sort of season 6 that got you into wanting to play the game?
I've got a good friend by the name of Jason who tried to apply for Survivor as well. And we got together and I sort of asked him if he'd help me with a couple of the other episodes. And I think that's what shot me in the foot as well, because, you sort of have watched one season Now you've got to go and say, listen, I'm the survivor fundi and I know this game. So watching a lot of the others, I think when you get there, it's totally different to what you've watched, and suddenly everything's just on you. And especially, I don't know if I can talk further into the show yet or not. It's basically episode 2 or whatever, but you're suddenly getting in this frenzy of, okay, so there's the tight 4. You were then brought back as number 5. Sepay at that stage was next. Now, okay, what happened on the show? What happens next? Okay, hang on. You've got to make a tight 3 somewhere along the lines, because now if Sepay goes, then obviously you're going to be the next one to go. So watching the show and everything, you're thinking, what was next? What was next? It was a tight 3. But the tight 3 is only after merge, sort of, so to say. You've got to believe in you know what I mean? So I would say I was a very good fan of it. I'd watched all the shows, but I think I was thinking a bit too prematurely about how to handle the game, and that's might have been what it cost me. I don't know if I can say this, but there were sort of slight talks to Nathan in the show as well, and maybe what had happened is we were out at sea, so cameras maybe not rolling at that time, and saying to him, because Rob was at the Island of Secrets, and sort of thinking, well, if Nicole comes back and says that she doesn't want to be a tight 3, what would be the next thing? The next thing would be to try and see if I can form it with someone else. So I thought I was playing this game very cleverly, and said to him, look, speak to Rob, let's form a tight 3. Rob hadn't come back yet. Nicole came to the well and said, Paul, let's form this tight 3. My brain automatically now thinking, oh shit, they want me to form the tight 3. I'd rather be with 3 guys, because that's probably stronger than 2 women and a guy, because then the guy is going to get kicked off next in the tight 3 further down the line. And that obviously, because I discussed it far out at sea, which was probably wrong, it should have been done closer to camera or whatever, is why everyone was so confused with everything. I think what it
tell me about it.
So I think what had happened
Forest
is,
walks, eh, Paul? Forest walks. Those are the best ones that weren't exposed to everyone, eh?
so I think what had happened is maybe Nicole had spoken to Nathan. That's why Nico's very clever in the way that when you come to tribal, they know more or less what's going on, and they know what was discussed when I wasn't there. So maybe the tribe had sort of got together. Hang on, Paul's not that trustworthy in the amigos, I'm saying now. He's starting to talk tight 3s or whatever. Nathan wanted to go home at that stage. His foot was very sore. It was discussed he was going home as well. So the dynamics of the game changed. Sepay wasn't going home anymore. Nathan was going home. I'm not pushed into this corner of having to now form the tight 3 with Nicole and them, because next would still be Sepay in our original. So if Nathan goes now, then Sepay is going next. So there's a lot of dynamics going on all the time that your brain is just, I mean, I pity those. Rob is amazing to have planned and done and everything right to the end. I mean, I'm on episode 2 trying to think of all these things, and your brain's just getting scattered with this and that. Hence again saying, okay, but now if Nathan's going, Sepay doesn't have to go, so maybe not do the tight 3 yet. Let me wait to speak to Rob, see if he's going to do a tight 3, and we move from there. As I was saying, Nico, very clever, picked up on this. You'll notice the word trust if you watch. He says so many times, but is the game not all about trust? Is it not about trust? Is it not about trust? You want TV gold. TV gold was Nathan, sore foot and everything. Let's try and keep Nathan on. Someone else can go. I mean, I don't think Nico's directly aiming at it. Okay, well, Paul must go there. But if you've got TV gold, you want him to stay. I mean, you had the bromance and everything else. So you'll see the whole time it was trust, trust, trust. Then the tribe again starts looking at each other and doing their famous thing of, okay, no, is it? No, it's going to be this one. Or it's all happening. And then what happened there. So the dynamics of the way that they edited everything and the way that Nico can bring things out in tribal. I mean, Nico's brilliant with the way he does it. They can almost manipulate a tribal council in a way. You see it in the overseas shows as well. I mean, they go in there, someone's going, by the end of the tribal council, it's someone totally different.
Yeah, and I want to jump in here with the next question, and then I'll let Riley go with one as well, because I know he's been patiently waiting there on the sidelines. I had an opportunity to talk to Rob Bentele not that long ago, and we spoke specifically about why people should watch International Survivor, because we've got quite a big following in the US specifically, and we're trying to get them into watching more Survivor South Africa and also Australian Survivor. And I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it, but now for Riley, who's over in Australia, you do actually get Survivor South Africa season 6 and 7 on Channel 10 over in Australia. So a lot of people are discovering Survivor South Africa quite newly at the moment over in Australia. Now, the big thing that sort of Rob mentioned in that conversation that we had is he said that, Paul, you know, if I remember correctly, he said you're someone that he thought could run the game later on because you were thinking ahead. You were one of the people that back then that were actually thinking ahead. So you did start putting a target on your back by obviously going for that final 3, but you're damned if you do or you're damned if you don't. You have to think ahead of the game. One of the things that I found quite interesting was your play with the idol and the fact that you were sharing the idol quite freely, or the clue about the idol, and then sort of giving the idol away to different people at different times. And I get that that was probably a way of trying to build trust. I feel like maybe if we looked at your game and if we were very critical, and it's very easy to be, you know, critical when you're an armchair coach like myself sitting on the sidelines here and I wasn't in the game playing it, and you don't obviously have all the information when you're there. But maybe that was the thing. If you had that idol with you on the night, do you think you would have still been voted out, or do you think that they would have probably kept you because the idol is too valuable a tool to still have in the game later on if you potentially could play it for one of them? How do you think things would have been sort of different if you kept the idol?
I think basically what happened when I was on the island, my thinking was, I mean, there they are, they're building the shelter, they're forming an alliance and everything. The only way to basically go in and get trust would be to go with some ammo. Other than that, what have I got? I've got absolutely nothing to go back to and get in. And it worked for me. I mean, obviously they realized, hang on, this guy is, my wording was always, let's keep the idol. And it was basically for after merge, in the sense of let's play it for the tribe. Now, if you get to merge, I am the tribe. It always was in my position. Besides the times that we were trying, I was very scared. Sepay was a very good player as well. Now, the night before Sepay was supposed to be voted off, I said, we were lying and I said, listen, guys, let's give Rob the idol to play, because my mind's now thinking, wake up next morning, Sepay says, listen, if I'm not going, you guys must be very confident then, and that I'm not going, so can I wear the idol? Because remember, we gave it to Nathan to wear the council before. So my thinking was get rid of the idol in the sense that Sepay can't use the idol to sort of make her feel secure if we're all saying, but you're not getting voted off. So my game plan there was, you know what, Rob is coming back. Let's give it to Rob to make him feel secure that he's not going to go. Great, I've got rid of the idol now. If I had to go back and play the game again, I think I would play it totally differently. I'd watch some more Survivors now. I think your mind is, you know what, don't play too aggressively in your own mind immediately. I think I was thinking just too many things of how to do this and how to do that and everything, but still trying to be the nice guy. Reverse, go back. Hopefully don't get chosen as a leader, which we all know. I mean, don't survive and you know, don't get chosen as a leader. I mean, obviously when you saw in the VR, but don't vote me out because I'm getting chosen as the leader or whatever. But it worked for me.
Chris, how well did I write up this guy? How right did I write up this guy?
I wasn't listening to you. I mean, when we were at the Island of Secrets, another thing, out at sea, we're swimming far out at sea. I'm already thinking I've got two leaders with me. So I said to, what was his name, Rocco and Quibus, I said, listen, guys, no matter how far we get in the game, we're in it. We're looking after each other. We're going to look after each other further down the game. So I think I was playing very aggressively from the word go. I was picking up shells at the Island of Secret, little shells. What are you doing? I said, I'm picking this up because later down the line, guys, we're going to need a false idol. Having discussed already, we're going to look after each other down the line. I mean, these are also things, you know, the camera can't pick up everything when you're out at sea or this or that or whatever. So I think, again, even Rocco said to me afterwards when we had the reunion, he said, shit, Paul, we formed this sort of alliance. I went and got the clue to the hidden immunity idol out of your pants. but you were basically saying, listen, we're sort of in a semi-alliance. You told me this is the clue to I don't even have to go. That's things that, and you know what, probably also being bad on my side, not realizing that you've actually got to be so close to camera all the time, because it screws their game up as well. You know, they've got to edit and everything. You're sort of in there, you're out there talking, but you need to be closer to camera all the time. And if there's one lesson I can give to any of the survivors going there, is make 1,000% sure that you're close to cameras or somewhere all the time, that the public actually can pick up really what's going on. Because I think there's a lot of episodes, even on the overseas ones and everything, where people are actually confused. They don't know what's going on. And it's our fault. And we need to play that game a lot better for the public as well. What was the question again?
That answers it, Paul. I do want to touch back with Leanne. We didn't see too much of your relationship with Rob on those first couple of days, you know, because really what we've seen from Rob is more of the strategic side. But how did you bond with him on those first couple of days?
The bond was very good.
No, Paul, that was my question, man.
No, sorry, let me mute myself. Hold on.
I didn't have a chance to really bond with him because Nicole was sucked up to him the whole time. They were literally like twins. And Paul, shake your head, yes? Yes. They were holding each other. They were cuddling at night. There was no way in there. But I tried, and I looked through him. I saw the kindness in his eyes. I knew that he was going to make it very far, but not because of the game, but because of who he was. And at night when we lay there in the cold, he would always talk the most sense as well, you know. And even after Survivor, everything was confirmed. I mean, we drove in the car together to the studio the night of the final, and I sat next to him. And I say to him, like, how are you feeling, you know? And he's like, you know what? The only fear I have is how fame would possibly change me. And I'm like, well, dude, I don't think it's going to change you at all. And he was like, thanks for having so much confidence in me. And I'm like, no, seriously, like, I know you and Nicole are like best friends, but no, I don't. She must be the one to be scared, not you. And then afterwards, everything was confirmed. I mean, in COVID, he was lost for like a while. He wasn't on Instagram or anywhere. And then it turned out he was feeding hungry people, you know, in the Bundus in Richards Bay, looking after people. And even now, when people like DM him and ask him, hey, can you please do a shout out? He's not on the Fan Park website where you have to pay like 500 Rand to get 3 words out of the guy. He will literally make a WhatsApp video and send it to that person. I asked him to help me with one of my business ventures the other day as well. It was a 5-minute clip that he had to make me. He made it, he edited it, and he freaking sent it to me on Dropbox, and it was done. You know, he didn't ask me anything for it. So I loved him, and I'm just so glad that he won. Like, I don't know what I would have thought about Survivor. I think I would have never ever watched Survivor ever again if it had gone out differently. Because I also believe in the law of the universe. You know, somewhere something has to be the reason why that person gets rewarded for what they're doing right. So, yeah.
You mentioned it earlier, you've sort of created a bond with Tony outside of the game. What other contestants have you bonded with since leaving Survivor?
Well, Tony was in season 6, funny enough. So that was a weird thing. I think it's because she supported me during our season. But in our season, I'm very good friends with Steffi. I talk to Meryl quite a bit. Paul and I have our Facebook likes and things. We support each other and we give each other what we deserve, you know, because nice guys finish last type of thing. And then with the guys, I will occasionally just chat to Jock or Rocco, but I think we're all just so busy right now. And if we had to get together again, like the night of the final, which was fantastic, we spent 3 days together, all of us, it would be the same thing. But I think we're just really strapped for time at the moment. I think it's the only thing keeping us all apart. It's just Felix who kind of like faded real badly. Like, we didn't see him at the final at all. He came in and out and he was still sulking, and it was like months later. But yeah, shame, poor guy.
Now, I do have a question, Paul, here for you. When you guys first got eliminated in the game and you got voted out, for the international versions and specifically the US, you sometimes get to still spend time with people that got voted out pre the actual merge, actually, and going on to the jury. Did you guys get to sort of spend any time? Were you there any kind of like villa that you were in together before you flew back to South Africa? What was that process like after you got voted out?
Tribal Council was every three nights, I think, if I got it right, every third night. So basically from Tribal Council, it's into total luxury, wonderful, beautiful showers and everything. But you're there for 2 nights, and then you flown off that third morning. And I think what they do is they recycle that particular room then for all the tribe mates that aren't making merge. So I think all the pre-mergers go home every third morning. They're shipped off again. I know the international shows and that keep them there for quite a while. It'd be very interesting to see what happens in Survivor season 8 being filmed locally and everything. I think it would have been worth their while to keep them there because it's very close to home and everything. But who knows? We'll only know basically after the show what happens there. But yeah, it was basically straight home on the third morning.
And is there any?
You get into your room, and you've got parameters, so you can see the sea, the coast, and everything's there, beautiful coastline and whatnot. But so where your internal walls are, straight down, those are your boundaries. So you're allowed to walk down to the beach. You're allowed to walk back. You're not allowed to communicate with anyone. You're not allowed to speak to anyone on your left or your right if you see them or anything. So they're very strict, and rightfully so. I mean, you going home now. The only info you've got is up to the episode that, I mean, I was as excited to watch the series when it came on TV because I'd only seen up to myself. So that's as far as you know. Now, if you're going to start talking to people, you've got another 2 days of information that you could come back to South Africa with and start talking to people. Although you're not allowed to say a word anyway, but I'm just saying, I think that they really got to look after the show and the secrecy of the show until it's actually viewed. So, yeah.
And is there any sort of people in the Survivor world that you've become friends with that wasn't necessarily in your season as well, similar to Leanne with Tony? Have you sort of reached out to those that have played in other seasons?
Tom and I chat every now and then. I suppose
Tom and I are very close. We've actually had like few events together as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I've been reaching out to Tom. I've been reaching out to Tom recently, and he's talked back to me. And there's a chance, like, fingers crossed, he wants to come on the show and do a bit of an interview with us as well. So really hoping we can get him on because we've already had Rob on for a quick one as well. And I know that Tom is also he's very much in touch with some of the US survivors, like him and Wendell, who won. I think it's Ghost Island over in the US. They're friends as well. So, but funny enough, Tom has never done one of these podcasts, as far as I'm aware, as of yet, because at the time when he did the show, there was some contractual obligations in regards to who he could talk to, and I think that the production team over in South Africa were pretty strict about that back then. Riley, over to you for the next question.
He's gotten into trouble before, that's why, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's one
we don't want to get him in trouble.
You need to keep on a leash, because you have to keep him on a leash. It's like our winner from Big Brother way back when. Those two are so naughty together. Ferdi, yeah. Yeah, so him and Tom are two of my very close friends, and they're always in trouble. Always. So having them together with events as well, it's like, York, where are they, security guards? Somebody needs to keep a leash on them. So I think that's why they keep them from saying too much, because they can't think before it comes out.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's a name. That's a name I haven't heard in years. So just Paul, you didn't jump in from the start. I'm from South Africa originally. Grew up in Worcester over in the Western Cape in the Boerland, but I was born in Bellville and lived in Bellville quite a bit as well. So I remember Ferdinand Rabi from being back in school when he won Big Brother the first time, and he actually went to school. Yeah. He went to school with my cousin as well in paddle.
In Worcester. And paddle,
I think it was paddle gymnasium. I think it's
he stayed in Worcester. Grew up hectically, like real bad, and then he moved to paddle, and then he moved to Bellville, and now he's back in. He's still staying in Bellville now. So naughty guy.
Crazy.
But coming back to the survivors and who, Rob and I, we've been skiing together and everything. We're actually very good mates. We probably chat once a month. And then I've also gone to Nicole's wedding. She had a wedding in series. And the amazing thing is all the bonding and everything, especially when we went to the reunion, I think you've got to realize it's a game. I mean, if you look at episode 3 where Sipe, they all come back, and then Sipe actually says, if you listen carefully, she says, da da da, and what a putz, meaning me. Now, if I'm going to take this to my grave and everything, it's a game. At the end of the day, you're all in there, your mind is thinking different things and everything. I think if you can realize that, you can be friends with everyone. You know what? It's a game. Everyone's sort of in it for themselves, but yet most of us, all of us, are tremendous friends. But I did realize at the reunion that there are some people that really, really have a lot of anger still with each other. And I think to this day, there's two certain, and I don't want to mention names, but two certain people that had become amazing, amazing, amazing friends on Survivor. And yet now it's the one just doesn't want to talk to the other one. And it's still like that at this stage. So I think, you know, they even give you is it psychologist? Psychologist.
Yeah, Al-Marie.
Yeah, and I can see why they do that, because I think it does affect people in different ways. But any advice to anyone going on the show is play hard. But once you off or whatever, just realize that everyone is they're playing a game at the end of the day. You can't take it so personally, even if it twists right around or whatever. Don't take the game so personally. And everyone was in it to play this game. And if anyone's listening and has got this rivalry or whatever, you know what? Next week, phone and sort it out. It can't carry on forever.
Yeah, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Remember, my story starts way back when, This isn't just Survivor. Yeah. If it was just Survivor, Chris asked me this morning, then it would have been a whole different thing, because I'm a mature woman. But this is history, and it wasn't from my part. It was always a personal attack on me, and it's us as women. No, it's a woman thing. Only women would understand.
This one's aimed at one or two of the guys, so that wasn't aimed at you, but it's one or two of the guys that I know. There's a bit of a vibe going.
I know who you're talking about.
You'll never understand women; it'll never work. No.
Now, Leanne, I do want to come back to you. We've had you on here for quite a while, and you're definitely free to stay on while we ask Paul a few more questions about episode 2, or you can move on. But just wanted to sort of ask you overall, you know, obviously one of the big fears for a lot of people when they go on to Survivor and play the game, especially for people that are a bit more of a super fans like myself and O'Reilly, like we would fear being that first person voted out, right? Because no one wants to go onto the show to ultimately be the first person voted out. Now, if you were to go back before going onto the show, even with being that first person voted out, what's your message to fans that are maybe like apprehensive or afraid of actually wanting to play the game because they potentially could be that first person out? Because it does seem like, obviously, you've mentioned, there's some issues you've got, but that's prior to the game itself. What was your overall experience, and do you still feel like, you know, it's worth it to put yourself out there and to go and try and play this game, even if you potentially could be that person that gets voted out immediately?
Well, I think if I had been a horrible, crazy person, like some of the previous contestants that you just always see, like even on international shows, you get these wild, crazy people and like, yes, you get them off. When I got off, I said to myself 3 things. You know, I remained who I was, number 1. Number 2, people remember the first one on and the winner and the first one off. So I'm nowhere in between. And number 3, when I got out and the initial press releases came out, I was the one on the billboard for 16 days by myself without anyone else. I was the only person known to the public for 16 whole days. So I got my little moments. I wouldn't exchange that for anything of having gotten further, because up until today, I can have that billboard. I can show my children one day. I can put it on a freaking canvas, whatever. And there was only one negative remark ever written about me in any public thing where it was shown to South African public, and that was somebody who, I think it was, they ripped off my bows that I was wearing. That was the one thing. They said, why does she wear these bows the whole time? She's a grown-ass woman. Okay, that was the one. And then the second one was why am I a life coach if I've got so much gripe against Nicole? Like, why did she rattle me that much? But once again, they didn't know our history. So they had no way of judging that. And every single thing, when you screenshot it, it would say, lovely Leanne, or life coach Leanne, or the nice girl got voted off. So everything was said nicely. And it was who I wanted to be when I got off there. So nothing negative was written about that. And then when you look back, everything happens for a reason. Like I said, I'm back with my family. Like Paul said, when he got voted off, he got the deal of his life. I got a lot of those things coming to my favor. And because I think my religion also saved me, because I'm a very big woman of faith, and I believe that everything happens for a reason. And I know that I would never be put in that situation if there wasn't a bigger plan for me. So I think if you as a person can go in there and you want it badly enough, you can play the game as you want, but you just need to have it in your mind that there could be rejection. But then you need to prep yourself. What would you do then afterwards? You mustn't go unprepared, because I never thought that I would be off first. I mean, even the moment it happened, it was, oh my word, I'm off. I'm the first one to go. But and I didn't expect it. I didn't prep myself, and that's why it took me such a long time to get over it. So I think every person going in there must prepare themselves to win or prepare themselves to go off first. And if you can't get around that, you shouldn't enter or go at all.
Yeah, like, listen, I want to add.
Strong. You need to be strong. It's a game.
Definitely, and I want to add, and hopefully no future Survivor players are listening to this. Don't want to jinx myself, but I've always said that when I play, a Niku and production team, if you're listening here, give me a call. I'll either be out first or I'll win the whole show. I've always said that, so I'm very much aware. I've got a strong personality, and I would have to keep that under wraps. And I think that at the end of the day, even with knowing that in myself that I could be that first person voted out, I would still take the plunge, because I feel like it's such a great experience to go on a show like this. You get to meet a whole new family of people that you're now involved. You and Paul have got a friendship through this. You've got friendships of other people that have played in other seasons. I think you're richer for it. And one of the things I really appreciate from having those conversations with you, and especially even prior to Paul jumping on, is the fact that you now are in a really positive place in life. You've moved on to go do something different. You've got a different career. You're in a different place. Clearly, you're someone that is very positive, and you've been giving me and Riley a lot of positive energy jumping on this call with us today, and we really appreciate that. So, keep being you. I don't think that it's personally who you are as a person why you got voted out. I do feel like there would definitely, the way that even we as viewers saw it, is that there was some stuff going on there that put you at a disadvantage compared to some of the other tribes where people didn't immediately socialize. You were in a tribe where people just clicked right from the start, but then in La May, they couldn't talk anything about, like, if Rocco talked about wanting to create an alliance, or if you had Tanya talk about wanting to create an alliance, they were immediately crucified. How can you talk about doing an alliance on day 1 or day 3? And it wasn't the case in your specific tribe. You can just never tell what type of characters you're going to have around you, who you're going to have to adapt to. So overall, I feel like you should take it on the chin. Definitely. I think it was a great experience to have you on there, and we're really grateful for you for coming on. And feel free, you can still stay. We're definitely not kicking you off, but I do want to move into the second episode specifically with Paul on a few things.
I'm going to go shopping now. I never get the opportunity anymore. So I'm going with my mom, and I'm going to have some milk tart or something. But I'm going to get the link from you, and then I'll catch up with you guys later.
100%. You have a great day, and thank you for stopping by. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Leanne.
Big pleasure. Bye, Paulie. Bye, Riley.
So, Paul, we want to go into the second episode, specifically the challenge there that you've got is quite a physical challenge, and you and Rob end up going up against, I believe it was Dante and Felix both times there, and it looked like quite a physical challenge there. And Felix, having been an ex-rugby player, he put in a couple of big hits. How physical and challenging was that challenge for you when you were in the midst of it?
It really was really physical. The first time we ran in, that was when Rob thought we had to go to their. So I was fighting 3 people trying to pull, because Rob was taking them to their post as well. So it's basically 3 guys going to the post. Rob supposedly going this way, but it happens. I mean, he was a bit confused about it. Very physical. The first one, I sort of psyched myself up. I've got to go and tackle old Felix, and ran in, managed to get him sort of down and whatnot. He's a big guy, but I think he sort of semi-respected me as well, because I think he could have just picked me up and thrown me the other side if he wanted to. But we fought it off. It was quite a good one. Unfortunately, I reckon at that stage, if we'd gone the other way and Rob was pulling towards ours, we probably would have got it. But that's how quickly the game can change. Just one little mistake or whatever. Second time round, and thank heavens it was edited out. I go running in for the same sort of tackle. Felix just goes, whoop, and he throws me and I fall right back, have to get back up again and go and try and tackle him again. That was my biggest fear when we're waiting to watch, you're obviously waiting to see how it's been edited and everything. I thought, oh my word, this is going to be funny. I'm going to go running in and just get plonk, thrown straight back into the waters and have to get up and tackle him again. But you know what? The editing is done so well. They don't try and make you look like an idiot or anything like that. It's done correctly in the sense of making TV gold with everything, and it is. Survivor, especially the South African version, is done so well. I can't wait to watch the next one. But yeah, physicality wise, it really is extreme. It's I actually watched. Yeah, I can't go to the third episode. I'll spoil it, so I won't.
There was on the Lau May tribe initially, Paul, a lot of honesty and transparency, and that all started when you obviously offered the idol to the whole tribe, but also with Rob as well, admitting that he had a no vote at the next tribal council. How much did that sort of affect how you were going to vote in that second tribal there?
Firstly, when he got back and he said he had a no vote, you'll see I actually almost question it. Again, overthinking everything. Because now you've watched these things, but hang on, if someone comes back with almost nothing, they would have got something for it. So I'm thinking, oh, really? Is that really what happened? Sort of thing. Like, hang on, is it? I didn't believe he can just come back with a no vote. You're almost thinking like, no. And that's why I think he sort of grimaces right in the end and he says, I got a no vote and that's all that I got, sort of thing. What was the question again?
How much did that play into sort of how you were going to go into the second tribal council and the vote? Did you consider that Rob, didn't have that vote there, or were you really thinking that he might have something else?
I thought he had something else. I couldn't believe that it was just a no vote. That's why I was sort of questioning him as well. It didn't make sense to me. He must have got something and just came back and said, listen, I've just got a no vote.
The way it was edited, and you mentioned this earlier, that you had that conversation out in the sea with Nathan and Rob. But when you went to the well with Nicole and Steffi, and Nicole proposed this threesome that would ultimately take them to the end and through the merge, you sort of brushed it away a little bit. Is that because you had already made that strong promise with Rob and Nathan?
No, it hadn't been made. It was a proposal made, hadn't happened yet. And to me, it was like, shit, I don't want to be in this if I can be in the other one. So I still got to wait. So now I've got to move it along. And I keep thinking to myself, had I said yes, would that whole series of Survivor been totally different? Would they have gone with me, or were they just testing me? Those are little things that you don't even know. And even if you speak about it today, maybe they'll just say, yes, yeah, we would have gone with it. You don't know the real truth. But that one little thing, if I'd said yes at the well, I think the whole game, that's why Survivor can change within seconds. If I just said yes and not worried about the other one, I probably would have lasted longer. Or would I? Would it have been the same thing? We can't trust Paul. He actually wanted to be in a tight three with us. So it's a tricky thing. It's amazing how it can just go the one way or the other or not.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you have a conversation with Nicole earlier in the day to talk about the fact that you want to have a tight three, and she's seen as being a little bit not sure if she wants to commit to a tight three. And then, when Steffi comes back to her, Steffi's the one that she seems like she's the one person in that core four that didn't, or the core five, whatever you want to call it. She didn't really want to stick with Nathan, and she was really over the fact that he was injured, and that she could see that he could be a liability long term because she didn't want to continue to go back to these tribal councils one after the other. So I feel like probably Steffi would have very much been on board from what I could see in the episode, at least, to play with you and to work further with you. But I think that Nicole sort of saying that you seemed like you were wishy-washy in regards to committing, maybe that was the big thing. And I think for us that have watched a lot of Survivor, we always think to ourselves, you want to commit to as many of these deals as you can, but it's tough because sometimes you get caught, sometimes you get away with it. It's like you said, one thing could have changed the whole game. And the way that the episode was edited, it definitely made it seem like that was where you lost the trust of potentially some of the people that you could have worked with. I want to backtrack towards Nathan and, you know, him having this injury with his foot. You know, how much of a liability was this for you guys at this point? And was it as bad as it sort of made out to be in the actual show? Did you guys feel like, yes, his foot is definitely in bad shape, or did you guys feel like, you know, maybe he was playing this up a little bit as well from his end? What was it like on the actual beach?
Nathan, besides his foot, there was something else that was bugging him, and it was something at home, and I don't know if I actually want to mention it on here, but it was quite extreme.
Okay.
Maybe we'll talk about it later. So yes, the foot was one thing, but I think there was other circumstances as well that was also going on in his mind and whatnot. So I think he was genuinely sore. It was quite a deep wound. But can I talk episode 3 more or less?
I mean, we've spoiled a few things here, so
sorry.
We've spoiled a few things already, so we'll put a disclaimer on for people just to say, listen, this is a rewatch. So say what you want to say.
If you look at the very next challenge, Nathan was incredible. He ran. He did everything in that particular challenge. And I mean, he looked like there was absolutely nothing wrong with him. So I also thought like, wow. And then it's like, okay, if you hear Stephanie saying, we've got rid of the bad elements, so to say. But if Nathan had been like that the day before, maybe we would have been just as strong or whatever. So, yeah, again, you can't hold any grudges or anything. It's a game. We've honestly felt, he said to us numerous occasions, he wanted to go home now because of his injury and everything. And that's why we were led to believe that he was, and everyone was hugging him and everything. I mean, night of tribal council, there was hugs, there was things happening. Nathan was going home. And then it just swung around as you saw with, you know, the right questions and Nico, and listen, the medics have checked you. There's nothing wrong with you. You can continue. Hang on. Everyone starts thinking again. Trust element. So I think he was genuinely sore. But like the first tribal council, we even put the idol around his neck and said, this is yours, because we thought it wasn't as bad as maybe what it sort of looked like, and he would be okay to go ahead with further challenges. He was strong in the water challenge, and then when he lost, obviously, you know, then he obviously, I think your brain also goes into, you don't feel pain when you're in the extreme of things, but as soon as it's over, suddenly it kicks in. But hang on, I'm sore. Something's happened. You know what I mean? So I think people are a bit harsh on him, saying that he actually wasn't injured, when I feel he did have an injury, but he had a lot more than that going on, which
that explains it.
Yeah,
that does explain it, because for us as viewers, definitely, you know, when I watch, this is my third time watching this season actually, because I had to do a whole rewatch of it when I spoke to Rob Bentelli the first time, just so I could remember what I saw the year before, and one of the things that stuck in my head was that there were times where Nathan looked like he was better, then there were times where he looked like he was worse. So it really made it a bit confusing. And especially even at the point that later on, you know, Nicole ultimately takes him out, I thought that Nicole was quite villainous in that specific move when she did it. And probably she still was a little bit and a bit self-interested. And you can't blame her. Listen, it's Survivor. You've got to, you know, your job is to get to the end. But it was quite interesting because, you know, she said it was because of his injury, but I kind of felt like maybe it was more his mental state of where he was in the game at that point. And it was just confusing for us as viewers at times to know how bad the injury was versus whatever else was going on. And definitely we don't need to get into anything from personal life or anything like that, but it definitely helps with the backstory and for fans that maybe wondered about this the whole time. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you, Paul, have you remained a fan of Survivor since you've played, and have you watched any other seasons from international shows since you've actually played on the show itself? Or are you sort of planning on more sticking to Survivor South Africa? Because obviously there is a new season coming out pretty soon.
I love the international shows. So I can't wait for the new ones overseas as well that we can watch. Really, really a Survivor fan still. I love the show. If they had to phone me tomorrow, same as you, Chris, yes, I'm available. Let's go. I think I've still got another 5 years of physicability or whatever left.
Physical ability.
Physical ability. Yeah. I'd love to go back. I know they've got what's the one, Second Chance. I don't know. I think we're just too premature in South Africa for that. I think once they've had about 15 shows or so, maybe they would do something like that. But yeah, it's something that I think it's in your blood now. It's you just. I mean, I don't. When I go out in public, I don't wear the mask. I mean, I just basically just go out and
Nice.
it sticks with you. And people don't. People won't recognize you or anything like that. I think you've got to get to merge to actually be recognized and to be known as one of the big Survivor players. But I live it in my blood. I promote the show as much as possible and everything. I love everything about it. And there's you can just learn so much more. Even coming back from the show and then you watch one or two others, you're learning all the time. And I mean, like Jacques is a true fan. I mean, Jacques is. I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd won the show if it had gone slightly differently or whatever. His dynamic, the way his brain was thinking and everything else. I mean, watching it again just yesterday or the day before, I mean, to have picked up that first clue already, I wouldn't have. I mean, I wasn't, I'm not that, I'm the fan and everything, but my brain doesn't tick like these guys' brain ticks. This guy was dynamic with the way he was going until such time as it happened, yeah.
I was going to add, obviously two things here that happened in this 2 episodes, and the other thing was Jacques being told by Quibus the clue of where the idol is, and then Jacques finding that idol, and then doing the opposite of what you did, right? He kept it a secret from the rest of them, which for people that have watched a lot, for people that have watched it a lot,
you learn every day. Yeah, you learn. The other thing that also goes through your head is you read a clue. Imagine what you'd look like if you couldn't find the flippin' idol. Hey? That's another thing. You read the clue, it's near water. I mean, you could be going towards the ocean every 5 days trying to find this idol or whatever. You look like a real idiot. So maybe it also worked to my advantage. You know what I mean? Like, here we go. We found the idol. What if Paul got the clue now, but he couldn't find it? So, yeah, there's many other ways as well to look at it.
How long did it take you guys to find the idol once you sort of revealed that to the tribe? Was it just straight away the tribe went out and went to look for it, or was it a little bit later in the
Second time round. So we went and looked and everything, couldn't find it. I was then still, you'll see Nathan actually says, oh, well, let's go give Paul his idol, which actually worked to there it could have been, okay, well, let's keep it. In other words, I'd said this is for the tribe, but already that was working. The dynamics of that was working because let's go and give Paul the idol. Paul can keep it. We played it. We could play it along up until merge, sort of sharing, knowing that I'm in this. Took it wrongly again, yeah. I'm in the sort of 5 of us, but my wording was always. It was never. I said it's for the tribe. I'm the tribe. After merge, it's mine. I would play it. I wouldn't give it out again. It would have been mine. So yeah, Mr. Nice Guy, but thinking Mr. Mean Guy coming out a bit later. Which didn't work.
I do respect how you played that though, because you very rarely see that in other international versions of the show where you really have that idol for the tribe, and you gave that to Rob, obviously at the second tribal, and Nathan at the first, just to show that they were secure in that alliance. With Rob on that second tribal council, was that just sort of to assure that he was safe with you, or was that maybe to suggest that, as you mentioned earlier, he may have had something from the Islander Secrets, and maybe to combat that so that he didn't use anything against you?
My thing was to keep it away from Sipe. I didn't want Sipe the next day. I mean, we're all, well, if I'm not getting voted off, let me wear the idol. So it was genuinely, I think Rob was safe without the idol anyway. I mean, already there, we could see the dynamics of the game. And I was chosen as a leader, but if you think about it, he was the true leader from the word go. He was very in things, and just the way his mind was going and whatnot. So it was purely to keep it off that Sipe would ask for it. My intention was Sipe is going. She mustn't have any chance whatsoever of asking for that idol. So it wasn't really to safeguard Rob. It was to keep it away from Sipe. Sipe, I'm sorry if you're listening.
You mentioned that you felt as though the tide sort of turned at Tribal Council when Nico sort of hinted that Nathan was there to stay for the long run and his injury wasn't as bad as the medics initially thought. Do you feel that's where that blind side really started to subside, or do you think there was a little bit of talk against you in the camp prior to Tribal Council that you weren't privy to?
I think it was more on that side as well. I think there was talk in the camp. But you must remember all along, Nathan was going home. So there might have been talk in the camp, but I don't think the intention at that stage was to vote me off. And I have had chats to them. I mean, obviously after the game, you can sort of speak. And Rob had mentioned to me that I wasn't going home that evening. He had said to me, though, I said, am I safe before we left? And he said, you know what, anything can happen. Just take your... And maybe there... So that also starts getting me thinking, was there certain talk? So the certain talk was probably about trust, but I wasn't going home. But take your stuff with you in case. But Rob left his stuff there. So, you know, after the game, you can start thinking about all these things, and suddenly all these little things start popping up. Luckily, I'd taken, you know, the flint. So it bounced back on them a little bit the next day, which was awesome. It was awesome to watch that next episode.
So that's the actual flint from the season that you've got there with you at the moment.
This is the one.
This is an amazing little souvenir for you there to keep, and definitely, you know, Rob being the fireman, that definitely mentally got to him, the fact that you had the flint and put them back a little bit. One of the other things I wanted to sort of put out there and point out, Paul, as we sort of getting closer to the end here, is obviously you said, you know, you'd be open to play the game again, and especially maybe like a second chance type of ballot or something like that, if you know, ever in the future there is one in Survivor South Africa. Myself and Riley have sort of speculated about when we think the next All-Star season would be for Survivor South Africa, and we both believe that it would probably be around season 10. If we get up to about a season 10, that's probably a good number to get players to come back. Who are some of the other players that you would love to see come back? And obviously we understand you need to be a bit political here just in case you do end up going back with some friends, but you know, who are the people that you'd love to see as a fan come back and sort of play that season with you potentially?
I think Tom, Tony, Nicole, Kobus, Rob. Who am I missing?
Banner. Well, you don't want to play Banner. You wouldn't want to play against them probably, but
no. The thing is, you form different strategies and everything. So knowing their game, and they knowing your game, and listen, if you're going to go and play a Survivor with Rob and think he's going to play the same game, you're an idiot, because there's no ways, because it's too predictable. Rob would never go back and play the same game. Rob also wouldn't go back and play. I don't think, you know what, when you're out on top, you're not just going to go and play an average game. I think he would probably go and do an overseas Survivor if it was South Africa versus Australia and New Zealand, which I'm sure is going to happen one of these days. It has to happen. I mean, yeah. I think he'd be a good contender for that. There's a series that they have here, Battle of the Bush. Now, pre-COVID, I was going to go and play against some overseas players. So that would have been a tremendous practice for me, and also maybe playing a different game and everything, seeing how it goes. But yeah, of the players that I know, I think, yeah, those are basically, I think that's about it, yeah, of those.
Now, Paul, I want to sort of say thank you firstly for coming on here and, you know, giving us some of your time to talk about Survivor. And also, I'd love to, you know, extend, you know, an invitation out to you if you ever wanted to come back on the show to talk about the new season as that's coming out. If you ever wanted to come and recap one of those episodes with us, you know, you're more than welcome to come on here and have a chat with us. We've had a lot of fun talking to you about Survivor, and thank you for all the tidbits and the behind the scenes info that you've given us in regards to what happened, you know, in your own season. That definitely gives us a lot more of a holistic view of some of the things that we didn't see as viewers.
It's only a pleasure. And you know what? The good thing is the experience was amazing. I mean, if you think of all the things that, where's this thing here? There's my clue to the idol. Oh, sorry, that was the actual idol. That's the clue to the idol. I mean, all the things that you come back with, the memories and everything. So even if you get blindsided on the second episode, I had so much. If you think about it, I went to the Island of Secrets. I got chosen as a leader. I got the clue to the hidden immunity idol. I got to have the idol. There were so many things that I'd got to experience, which even people that went to merge didn't get to bring back or anything. So it's about the experience. It's about everything else that you gain out of the show. And I can only be thankful that I actually got onto Survivor. I mean, there's many people, like you say yourself, you want to get onto Survivor. you could be the very next person that goes. It could take you another 5 years. So I was very blessed to have been chosen, and yeah, it was awesome. And thanks for the chance. Really appreciate it.
I'm in a fortunate situation where, you know, I live in New Zealand. I'm a New Zealand citizen. So I also go over to Australia quite a lot for work. So I live basically Australia, New Zealand, and I'm from South Africa, being a dual citizen. So who knows, you know, any three of the companies that does New Zealand Survivor, Australia Survivor, or Survivor South Africa, if you want me to go and play your show, you know, just putting it out there, I think I could be entertaining. But hey, Paul, really appreciate your time, and you know, definitely stay in touch if you do want to do anything in the future. We'd be happy to talk to you again. And you know, thank you for coming on here and having a conversation about your season.
Only a pleasure, and available anytime.
Thanks, Paul. We'll see you.
Paul.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Now, Riley, that was Paul and Leanne that we both had here on the show to talk about their experience on Survivor South Africa, Island of Secrets. And I've got to be honest, you know, having a conversation here with Paul, you know, I really feel gutted that we didn't see more of him in the season, and definitely would love to see him come back. I feel like he's got a lot more that he can give.
He was actually the player I was rooting for most on that Saula tribe early on. I mean, he really did. Play such an interesting game, I thought, and just his honesty and transparency in sharing that idol with the tribe. And I think that's the interesting thing about this Saula tribe early on, was they were very harmonious, and they were honest and transparent. It seemed one big happy group, maybe with the exception of Sipe and obviously Leanne there as well. But compared to other tribes, though, and you mentioned this earlier in the podcast, Chris, Saula really scrambled at the beginning to create those alliances, whereas on the other tribes, like on Ta'olo, when Tanya started to sort of make these alliances early on, the rest of the tribe wasn't really reciprocating that idea.
Yeah, 100%. Now, let's do a quick overview of the two episodes in regards to any of the things that we may have missed that Paul or Leanne didn't really have too much of an input on because they weren't in those tribes. I think the big standout here is that Jark early on is seen as one of the players that is thinking outside of the box here, obviously getting the advantage here in episode 1. And then in episode 2, he ends up getting Quibbers talking to him about the potential of finding an idol. He finds the idol, he hides that from Quibbers, keeps that in his back pocket, which is great for his longevity in this game because he now has a tool that he can work with, and obviously we know how that plays out, but still at this stage in the game that is definitely seen as a positive. On the other tribe, we also I forgot to say, we also see a bit of Tanya really putting sort of her foot in her mouth a few times of trying to create too many alliances too early, and she's getting caught out here because there's a lot of people who don't necessarily want to work with her, and there's definitely some tension there between Felix and Tanya here early in this tribe specifically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tanya really has started to rub people the wrong way. And she does propose that alliance with Ting Ting and Meryl, that all-girls alliance, and wanting to bring, I think it was Dante in as the fourth member there. Or Corbus, sorry. And when Corbus returns from the Island of Secrets, he's not really reciprocating those same feelings. And the same really happened on Laumei as well. They were also a little bit skeptical to start creating those alliances. And obviously when Rocco started to scramble to get all the guys together, and I think it was Mike that sort of didn't really feel that didn't feel right to him, and he wanted to bring in the others like Rosalie, and he felt compassionate towards Letitia as well, and didn't want Mamba to be excluded from the vote. It was really a tale of two cities between Saula and then the other two tribes, Laumei and Ta'olo, in how they really scrambled those first couple of days, and maybe that's because we haven't yet seen Laumei and Ta'olo tested at Tribal Council. So it will certainly be interesting to see how they go over the coming days, especially with Jark now having the idol as well, and potentially holding the balance of power there on the Ta'alo tribe, how they sort of go forward from here and start to strategize when they start losing immunity challenges.
Yeah. Now, guys, it's been great having you here. Obviously, this is a pre-recorded podcast, and we sadly couldn't have you on live for this one, but we will be trying to do some more live ones in the future, and we're going to be bringing on more players from this season. So a few of the players that so far have confirmed that they are interested in coming on the show is Ting Ting. We've got Sipe, Jeffrey, Jark will come on for the second time on the podcast and have a conversation about his own season this time, not Australian Survivor. We also have Nicole, Rob, and and also Doral so far confirmed to come on the show, and we're still talking to a few other people. So there's going to be a lot more players from Survivors South Africa, Island of Secrets come on here. If you like this type of content, please hit subscribe. We hope we earned your subscription today by giving you this content, and also hit the notification bell if you want to be notified of any future episodes coming out. Like always, it's been a pleasure hosting you today and talking about Survivor South Africa. Riley, thanks. It's been good talking to you, and we'll talk next time.